You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey vet rehabbers, happy new year to all of you. I hope that you guys have all had an amazing festive season. It's back to work for most of us now, and hopefully you've had a chance to reboot and start the year with new energy and motivations. Now, normally when people start the new year, they decide on New Year's resolutions and goals. Now, Anae and I have different opinions on this practice. I like to set goals as I feel this motivates me to achieve, and it stops me from settling into just being comfortable. And it's easy to stay comfortable, but when I do this, I really don't feel like I grow and improve as a person. So now that's just my personal opinion. So we're all different. And there's that saying, we need to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm going to say that again. We need to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So I feel like goals are really, really important. And especially for us vet rehabbers who have our never stop learning attitude. Before we go over to my chat with Anae, I want to say a quick shout out to Anna's Animal Physiotherapy for posting such an awesome review on Apple Podcasts. She said, love your podcast. As a mobile rehabber, I love listening to these podcasts when I'm out and about between appointments. Well done and keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Anna, for taking the time to post this review. Vet rehabbers, I love reading your reviews. As you all know, from COVID lockdown time, it gets so lonely online. So please post your review. Let me know that you're out there joining me every week and listening to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast. Anna, please get hold of me. You can email me at megan@onlinepethealth.com. I'd like to gift you with a Veterinary Rehabilitation Limited Edition mug. Thank you once again. So over to Anae and me, you guys are really going to enjoy this chat, and I really hope that it motivates you and you find what works for you after listening to our conversation. Thanks, Anae, for joining me for the first podcast of 2022.
Thank you, Meg. Happy 2022, everyone.
Oh, happy New Year. So today we're going to chat about goals. And I know it's like a cliche kind of thing, like your New Year's resolution and your goals, and I think you and I maybe have a little bit of a different opinion on whether we should be setting goals or shouldn't. So yes. I think today's chat's going to be really, really interesting. So yeah, let's hear what you have to say.
Okay, so like you said, it's New Year. Most of us have either set goals or feel under pressure to set goals. So if we haven't done it, we feel like we need to. What are my goals going to be? That can be quite stressful. And then you might end up setting goals for the wrong reasons and then not achieve them, right? So not work towards them, not even try because your reasoning wasn't right to begin with. And then you fail. Right? And then you start off your new year having failed at achieving your goals, which kind of sets the tone for the year. And that is not ideal. That's not what we want to do. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how I feel about goals, especially New Year's ones. I'm not a fan. Goals for a specific reason and purpose, yes, I do use them and I do set them when there's something I want to achieve. But for New Year's, not so much. I have a different approach.
Last year, basically, did you set any goals for New Year at New Year's or any goals?
So do you mean like last year?
Yeah, if we look back over 2021, like you said, some of us will look back at all our goals and then have this sort of negative feeling because we haven't achieved them. So do you have that? Like, did you achieve all your goals?
So no, because I don't set them. But I tend to have I try and have a theme or a word or a kind of something for the year. And generally my theme overlaps with Online Pet Health, OPH's theme. So last year my theme was kind of research and going into research and also focusing on the little things. And that's something that Mish often talks to us about and encourages us to do, because the better we do the little things, the better we do everything. So it's really important to focus on those. And I'd love to chat a little bit more about that. But that I think I still need to work a lot on, devoting myself to the little things, making sure they're done with quality and with excellence. and with the attention that they need. So those were my things for last year, is spending more time understanding and reading research, which yes, aces, I did. And the other one was getting better at doing the little things, which I've improved at for sure, but I think I could still do better.
Yeah, so I actually got, what I like to do is like a vision board. So like for those of you that are listening, I'm going to show it now. So if you're looking at the video, you can actually see it. So it's basically like a piece of paper that I divide into 6 or however many goals I have. And then I have like basically what I'd like to achieve in each of them. So I'm going to read you guys what I had for last year. So create awareness about vet rehab globally, which I feel I did. List things I'm grateful for every day, which I did. Help vet rehabbers succeed in practice, which I hopefully did. Facilitate unity in the vet rehab profession, which I feel together with you guys at Onlinepethealth, I think we did. Write my daily affirmations. So those are things that every single day, I like to sort of say positive things about my life and where I hope to go. And I did that. And then the last one is learn Swedish. So this one I feel a bit disappointed in. I did learn Swedish, but in my mind last year, right, when I wrote this, it was like, learn Swedish, I will be fluent in Swedish by the end of the year, you know? And so learn Swedish is not very specific. And so I did learn Swedish, but I have this feeling like I didn't achieve it because my expectation was to be fluent, which is probably unrealistic, considering that I don't see any Swedish people or talk to Swedish people and not actually have any place to practice. I'm just using Duolingo. You know, I've gone up lots of levels, so I have learned, and probably not as much as I'd like to have. So I will be honest, I didn't do it every day. And so, yeah, so looking back, I have that feeling where I just feel like I didn't achieve all of them. It's not right. I shouldn't feel like that. I should actually feel like really good about it. Yes. So I understand that way. But so how can we, I think about it, how can we actually have goals? Because goals, I think, are really important. Okay. So whether they're New Year's resolutions or goals, it doesn't matter when you do them. But I think in order to be able to grow and to improve yourself, you have to have some goals. And I look back now at mine and think, well, why do some of us fail at our goals? So what are the reasons? So I thought we could maybe touch on that. So looking at my one specifically, is that I wasn't specific enough. I should have said, learn Swedish every day. And then I would have done that every day and I would have been happy. But to try and say in my mind, think I was going to be fluent was unrealistic. Have a goal in mind, but also break it up. You know, so into smaller sort of milestones. I could have said get to a certain level on Duolingo by the end of the year, which I would have done then, you know. But yeah, let's touch on why we have goals and why they fail.
So I love that example you've given on the Swedish, learning Swedish, because I think it's the most common mistake we make, is that we're too broad and we're too non-specific with our goals. So if you're going to set them, it's worth spending some time setting them right, and really being intentional with how you do it. Like you said, you have an end goal, a big goal, which is to be fluent in Spanish, in Swedish. But to get there, there's little things that you need to achieve along the way. So your big goal can be to become fluent, but that can be a 5-year goal. In that time, you would break it up into, I want to be able to do this at that time point. I want to be able to do that by that time point. So I love, actually, Meg, you had us read one of Rachel Hollis's books, and I can't remember which one it was, but she described that process of setting goals and creating milestones so beautifully. It was the first time it made sense to me. It was the first time I felt like, yes, this is clear. So essentially what you would end up doing is creating a map for yourself and saying, to achieve this next step, I need to do X, Y, Z. So it's very clear what needs to happen. That being said, creating that kind of a goal setup to say that I want to open this business and this is how I'm going to do it. So my goal is to open the business. And along the way of achieving that goal, there are hundreds of little things that need to be achieved. And you kind of work backwards from the end goal to where you are now and fill in the gaps of all the things that need to happen. And then that's how you create kind of your milestones. And it's really like, it can really help you feel like you're keeping on track when you're working towards a milestone. Like losing weight for a lot of us can be really hard because your long-term goal can be very far away. And short-term goals can be very unmotivating because you don't necessarily see a change quickly or in the short term, which means that you need to have a long-term goal, but because it's far away, it's not motivating you to kind of go for it and strive for it. It's a little bit of a vague thing. Having that pathway and having those milestones along the way, that can be really motivating and make it much easier for you to follow or to achieve your goal at the end of the day. Some of the other things that we do wrong when we set goals mostly lies in our motivation, right? So I know that for some people, goals can almost become like a need or an addiction. So you feel like you have to have a goal and you have to achieve it. And when you get into that space, it's very easy to become a workaholic, to neglect your family and your friends, your relationships, your own health. So I don't know how many people are like that, but I feel like, Meg, you could sometimes be like that. Are you a little bit like that? Like jumping from one goal to the next?
No, I actually don't. But I can be a workaholic.
Can be a workaholic. Like there needs to be something to strive for, right?
Yeah, like I've had times before, like for example, in holidays, where I actually feel guilty, like when I'm not working. So yeah, at one stage I was like really like reading loads of books and like marketing I love anything about marketing, you know me and marketing. And I was just reading book after book and summarizing them. And I remember one holiday, like somebody actually said to me, like, aren't you actually working now? And I was like, am I? Like, I don't know, like I love doing this. It's like, and then I actually thought, maybe I actually need to give this a break and actually stop. And I stopped that holiday. It was a December holiday. So yeah, you can become obsessive about it. And that was one of my things, to like get a real grasp on marketing. So yes, maybe I can be.
Yeah, maybe you can be. So so that's a reason to stop setting goals, at least for a short period of time, to say, let's take a break. Is my life in balance? Am I spending enough time invested into my relationships and into my own health? So those things are just as important as our work, and we need to remember that. I think another thing that a lot of this certainly is a big thing for me with goals is that I don't know what I want. So how do you set a goal if you don't know what you want, right? What you want to achieve? And this counts both in the short term as well as in the long term. Like, how do you set a 5 or 10-year goal for yourself if you don't know where you want to be in 5 or 10 years? And I want to take that a little bit further and say, do I trust my 18-year-old self to determine where I want to be when I'm 30, right? No, not really. Because even if I was right and I knew exactly what I wanted back then, which I didn't, chances are that I'm going to be doing some growing in the next 10 years, and my ideal might change, my plan might change. And I think that is the other thing about goals that gets me, is that if you decide on a path and you decide on a destination, then you feel like you have to follow through with it, right? If I say that in 5 years, I want to own my own business and I want to be making X amount of money and I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I want to be able to go on 3 holidays a year, then that's what I have to do, because now I've committed to that and that's my decision and that's what I'm going to do. But what if in 5 years like life happened, a pandemic hit, we went into a completely different career, and I love it. What if I love it? So I'm in a different space, I'm in a different place, and it's working and I'm growing. So that is a big thing for me, is that like setting our sights on something when we don't know what the future holds, and we don't know what we're capable of or what changes we're going to go through. I feel like that's limiting to our potential at the end of the day. We also might be trying to control things that we can't, right? And I think that's another thing many of us struggle with, is because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or in the future. We don't have control over other people. We try and create goals and scenarios where we can determine what happens and it's in our control. And it never really is. Our own actions and our own attitude, yes, that's always in our control. But what happens? That's not really in our control. If you achieve this thing, you're going to be happy. That's another big one. That's just, it's not true. Like, yes, sometimes our circumstances and our situations are difficult. It's difficult for us to be happy in that space, but happiness comes from us. Joy comes from within us. It doesn't come from outside of us. And so if we're trying to achieve something to make us happy or to make us feel fulfilled or to feel like a success, then it's not going to have that effect. We're going to achieve it and then still have that same feeling and then need to grasp for the next thing and the next thing. So that's not a good reason to set a goal. So those are the reasons not to do it.
Okay, so I had so many thoughts and I was like, when is she going to stop? So I can start jumping on that.
I saw your face, sorry.
I was hoping that you would just give me a little chance to speak. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I tell you what, when you're talking about the goals and about like, do you trust your 19-year-old self? I think it's okay to set goals and then it's okay to change them too. And I think that that's really important to know, is that you don't have to have the same goal because things do change and life does change. And so something that you set, you don't necessarily have to continue with. But I think it's important that you do. This is the reason I think it's important that you do have a goal. So if I think about my practice, right? At one stage in my practice, I was just going along, right? If somebody had to say like, what are you hoping for next year or 2 years? I didn't know. And I really think that stifled the growth in my practice for a few years because I was just going on each day, right? And it's a little bit, when I do my mentoring with vet rehabbers, one of the things I always ask them is like, what do you hope to achieve? Like, what are you wanting from your vet rehab practice? Like, how do you see yourself in 3 years or 5 years? And you might not know, but the reason why it's good to think about it is because it's a little bit like a GPS, all right? So let's say you got to go from here where I am now to a person's house, okay? And I think I know how to get there. But you go there and then you take the wrong road and then you turn again and then you go around and you do a circle and you come back and you eventually get to that house. That's a little bit like living life without this goal, like especially when you have your vet rehab practice. In comparison to somebody who says, okay, this is where I want to go. So the house is where you want to go. And you plug it into the GPS and it takes you directly there. And so by having these goals and having thought about this, like where you see yourself going, you're actually on a more direct path. And so when something tries to steer you away, you say to yourself, no, that's where I'm going, not there. Where it's very, very easy when you don't have a goal, you don't know where you're going, for things to steer you off course. And so it takes you so much longer to achieve what and you eventually end up in the same place. It just takes you longer because eventually you will say, that's where I want to go. I think it's important that you do have this kind of thought process as to where you want to go to and what you want to achieve. And that's for me, and I feel that. So maybe it's not for everyone, but for me, that's what I think is important. You mentioned those Rachel Hollis books. So I've got them on my Audible app. So I wanted to tell you, it was Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. If you guys haven't listened to these books, Rachel Hollis, she is awesome. If you're like one of those kind of people that are just feeling like a little bit low, a little bit demotivated, like you feel like you're not like achieving what you want, like listen to these books. It like just gives you a little bit of a motivation and it's like, okay, I can do this. And she gives loads of tools. So it's, Rachel Hollis, Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. So I'm not sure which one you read.
I read them both. And then I read all her fiction books as well, because I was on a roll.
Yeah, you're loving her. So there's another book, which while we're talking about books, I thought I would mention is Compound Effects by Darren Hardy. I think I've told you about that one. Have you read that one?
I haven't, and I don't know I don't know what it's about.
It's a must read. Everybody must read this book. Like, I've read loads of books. Like, I think I've got 213 like books in my Audible library, and those are all like business ones, marketing. There are no like fiction books in my Audible library. It's all like, those kind of like marketing books or business books or self-mastery kind of books. And this book, I must say, really, really like changed my life. Like, I read it and I was like, I get it now. And then I looked back at other books which I'd read, which had tried to say the same thing, but didn't really, I didn't really get it. I sort of got it, but it never stuck. This one really stuck for me. And it's about making very small changes. So a little bit like what Mish is talking about, and then continually every single day, and then seeing the results. And this is what I really feel about the goals. So like, if you set a goal, let's say around continued education or improving yourself professionally or whatever it may be. So you might have personal goals, professional goals, but let's talk about, because we're all about never stop learning, let's talk about doing more continued professional development, making sure that you learn every single day or every single week or whatever it is you want to do. And basically blocking a set of time, whether it be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever it is, okay? And you do that every single day. And you don't have to do a lot. You can even just start by saying, I will read 1 page of the Vet Rehab textbook every single day. That's it. And you do that. And then after like a month, you say, okay, I'm going to read 5 a day now. I've done this and it's become a habit. I'm doing this every day. I'm going to read a bit more, or I'll do something different. And it's becoming sort of part of your life, but it's making very small changes. So like to read 1 page, maybe it takes 3 minutes. 3 minutes a day. Do you have 3 minutes a day to improve your knowledge? And it's an amazing book. So Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
I've written that down. I'm going to go read that. And I want to expand on that. So I really love that, because it's exactly why some of us fail at achieving our goals, because we expect to, we go for it for a week or 2 weeks, and then we don't see change, or we don't see enough change, and then we kind of are demotivated and give up. This is something I know many of you know that I do straightness training, but it's one of the things that they talk about all the time, because change happens slowly. And if we become demotivated in the beginning, then we won't see that change. So working towards improving your horse's strength and quality of movement is not a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 1 year goal. It's a 5 to 10 year goal. And we need to see it like that. So every day, if we can improve every time we walk into that arena by 1%, then by the end of the year, we've improved exponentially. We have a compound effect. It's exactly the same thing. And it's the same with our practices. It's the same in our professional lives. It's the same with everything that we do. If we commit to improving ourselves slightly, just a little bit, only a little bit, all the time, continuously, over time, that has a compound effect. It's not about binging a conference and going to a seminar every now and then. And then when we take in too much information at once, it doesn't have time to change us. It doesn't have time to sink in, right? And I mean, our Vet Rehab Summit this year, I think, is a great example of that, because it was insane. But I'm going to have to watch all the recordings again, because it was just so much information. There was so much value in it that it's going to be a process of kind of digesting that knowledge little by little over time. And that's the best way that we learn and grow, is little by little over time, compounding. I also want to take your GPS analogy, Meg, because I love that. And I think it's right. It is right. And I want to give you a different perspective or a different idea on it, okay? So if your GPS is taking you to somewhere that you want to be in a year's time or 5 years' time, okay, and you want to get to there, or you don't have a time thing, you want to get there as fast as possible. That's your goal, okay? Now, say that's a goal for your business, for your vet rehab business. You want to be at this point as soon as possible. Then I want to say, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on achieving something, or are you focusing on the patients that walk into your practice hour by hour and day by day? Where is your attention and your focus and your heart, right? So a different analogy that we can use for the GPS one is a hiking analogy. If you go hiking, there's a destination and you want to get to that destination, but you're not doing it in a specific amount of time. It is much more about enjoying the journey. It's about moving your body. It's about being outside and breathing fresh air and exploring a new place and a new area. And you're still going to get to that destination, but you would have enjoyed the journey much more than if you had rushed to get there. So it's a different perspective and a different way of looking at it, but it is saying the same thing. And to me, that's where I want to focus. I want to say, yes, I do want to have a goal. I do want to have a destination, because it keeps you motivated and focused on what you're doing and where you're going. But I don't want my focus and my attention on a day-to-day basis to be on that goal. My attention and focus on a day-to-day basis needs to be on today and on here and on now and what I'm doing and what's in front of me, so that I can do the best with this moment, this patient, this person, this client right now, instead of focusing on what I'm trying to achieve. Because if I do that, I will achieve it, and I will do it in a way that I feel content. I feel like I've done the best for the patients in front of me. I've done the best by myself, and I've enjoyed every moment of the journey. It's much less stressful, so we don't end up feeling that huge pressure of this massive mountain we're trying to climb, and we don't know how we're going to do it. We don't know how we're going to get there. Goals can be really overwhelming, especially when they're big ones, and it can be stressful. And if we don't know how, like, we don't do really great with stress, I don't do really great with stress, then it's not a good thing to put on ourselves, because we're doing it to ourselves. We're saying, I want this, and we put that weight on our shoulders, and then we start climbing. No, let's focus on the moment and on the journey. And that's my alternative to setting goals, is how can I be the most present in this moment today while I am working at always improving myself, always becoming better, and potentially moving in one specific direction.
You see, I think the thing is with the goals, it's also very subconscious. So it's not like every single day you're like thinking, so concentrating on that goal. You have that end in mind, and it's subconsciously, it's there. And so what happens is, when you have decisions that you need to make, you make the right ones because you know where you're wanting to go and what you're wanting to achieve. So let's say, for example, you're sitting down and you decided, like, every single Friday afternoon, I am going to listen to one of the Online Pet Health webinar recordings. I'm going to block an hour and a half of time. I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to summarize it or write down my little notes. And then you sit there, and that's your goal now, is you want to do once a week, you want to do continue education or improve your knowledge. And then there is somebody who says, oh, there's this awesome Netflix series that is on, and now you have this choice between watching Netflix and that. And so when you have that goal in mind, right, your subconscious tells you, this is what I need to do. So it's a little bit like the affirmations. You're just continually telling your subconscious to make the correct decisions. I think that we can sometimes get overwhelmed with goals if we make it too big a thing. And I think that that's where it really comes down to setting attainable goals. So like not trying to learn Swedish or be fluent in Swedish in a year, baby steps, so be realistic with yourself, and set goals which you're able to achieve. Break them down into smaller milestones. Have a look at your final goal and say, like, is this realistic that I can expect myself to do this over a year? And if it isn't, then it's a 3-year goal, and say, what would I like to achieve in 1 year? Or whatever, like, so however you want to break it down. If you don't want to do it in New Year's, and say, you can even, maybe you go from July to July. You don't have to do it in the new year, basically. Basically breaking them down and just working out what you're able to achieve. And also, I think, we chatted about being able to keep up with the things, so like doing the little bit, look at the things that you tend to procrastinate on. And sometimes when you set unachievable goals, you tend to procrastinate because it's like this big goal. And it's a little bit like, you and I have done a podcast before, and I can't recall what number it is, but we were talking about time. It's a little bit like when you block your time, or when you have it like your to-do list, you'll write something that you need to do, and it'll be like, do my tax. It becomes overwhelming and it's a big thing. So like if you have a goal that is like, finish this course, instead, you could break it up and say, in the next 2 months, I'm going to finish module 1. And in order to do that, you've got to plan that. So you say, right, I'm going to have a look. There are 24 modules. That means that every 2 days or every 3 days, I need to do 1 module. And so you have to, you need a bit of planning around your goals, if it is that type of goal, But yeah, look why you're procrastinating, why you're not achieving your goals, and then try and work out how you can make them more attainable, how you can create milestones or break them up and plan them. So I think that's a really important thing why we often fail, is that we don't plan. We have this goal and we don't plan exactly how we can achieve it. And then also just be okay with changing it. So let's say I decide I want to learn German now. Maybe I change it this year.
Okay, so Meg, have you set goals for yourself for 2022?
I have, yes. I am going to do Swedish every day. I'm going to, it doesn't matter how long, even if it's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, the Duolingo app allows me to be able to do that. I would also like to get my my fitness back and my body back after being pregnant last year. I'm not feeling that great about myself. So I would like to do exercise every single day, and I actually have started that already. So sometimes I do 5 minutes, and I'm embarrassed to say after 5 minutes, I can be sore the next day. That's how bad it is at the moment. But just a little bit every day. And then I would like to get myself and my knowledge around marketing, because I love the marketing. And I feel like over the last year, I've sort of lost touch a little bit with the social media side and the changes and everything. So this year, I'm really going to focus on all the social media marketing techniques that there are, and what really applies to us and to vet rehabbers, so that I can help vet rehabbers. So that's one of my big goals, is to really like hone in on the social media side of things and get my knowledge up to date, so that I can advise and support the vet rehabbers in their social media. And I haven't made my little vision board yet. So like, I'm just doing it out of the top of my head right now. So yeah, it was the do Swedish every single day, exercise. Oh yes. And I want to start riding again. And I have, so last year I started riding a little bit more, and I'm doing it once a week. And just ready to maybe do some riding lessons again. So my younger self would be laughing right now if I heard myself saying I was going to be like learning to ride again, because it's been 20 years since I rode. So I felt like, I must say, when I got on a horse last year, I felt like I'd never been off a horse. So I hadn't ridden for 20 years. Obviously my kids are riding, and so I felt like I was home. But I can feel like my skills obviously are not there anymore. And I mean, even when I was riding, I was still having lessons, but I really need to go back to basics. So yes, that will be one of my goals, is to start some lessons and to try and improve my riding. And yourself?
That's awesome, Meg. Actually, I'm really impressed, because I wasn't out of riding, but I didn't ride when I was pregnant and after I had Alon, probably for like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, something like that. And the first time I got on a horse, it was weird. It was weird. It felt terrible. I had no idea where my center of balance was. I was just like, this is awful. I'm going to have to literally learn to do this from scratch. And then after like half an hour, I had it, so it was fine. But I'm glad. Good. So for me this year, I think I want to learn to focus on completing one task at a time instead of multitasking. It's going to be a big one. Focusing on one thing at a time. I want to focus on the small things. So I've been really getting better at that, and like taking every opportunity to just enjoy the moment that I'm in, and to really, focusing on one thing at a time also helps you to do that, to do each thing, each small step well. So that will be really good. And I think those are my big things, really focusing on doing the small things well and with excellence, and not multitasking. Those are my big things. Appreciating like the moments of beauty that come our way, moments of enjoyment. When you have children and you are close to outside, they come often in a day. And so we need to enjoy them and appreciate them. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So vet rehabbers, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I would like to say, like, you guys got to work out for yourselves. Like, are the goals right for you? How have you handled goals in the past? Like, what is the best way forward for you? And it's all about just improving yourself. So goals are about being a better person for yourself. So it's all for you. It's not for anybody else. So if you've got any major goals, we'd love to hear about them. If we at all can be any help towards you achieving that goal, we would love to hear about it. And we will do our best to support you in it.
And let's share some pictures on social media. Meg, I'm sure you're going to create your little vision boards. So let's share those pictures. I'll create some, also some affirmations and things that I'll put up to help me with mine. And let's share them. Share yours with us on social media as well. That would be great.
Love it. Cheers, Anaid. Thanks for joining me.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. And please, if you get a moment, head over to Stitcher or iTunes and leave me a review. It's a really lonely job being a podcaster, and so the only time I get to hear from you or know that you're out there is when I get a review. And know that I read every single one of your reviews. So to those of you that have left reviews, I want to say a very, very big thank you. Every time we get a review, it really helps to get the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast out there to all the vet rehabbers all over the world. All right, vet rehabbers, so if you are looking for more continuing education in the field of veterinary rehabilitation, head over to onlinepethealth.com. Go be awesome, guys.